We often imagine Roman soldiers winning with steel, discipline, and the roar of battle. But here's the twist. Rome's greatest weapon wasn't forged in iron. It was baked, boiled, and carried on their backs. A simple food that fueled an empire for centuries. Today, we open the rations of a Roman soldier, and what you'll discover will change the way you see history. Picture this, a Roman legion on the march, 30 kilometers a day, under the blazing sun, carrying shields, weapons, and nearly 40 kilograms of gear. And at night, instead of resting, they built a fortified camp every single time. What gave them this energy? Not feasts, not wine, not meat, but grain. Yes, the humble ration of wheat and barley. Every Roman soldier had dried wheat, barley, a hand mill, and sometimes cheese or bacon. At camp, they ground the grain, cooked it into porridge or flatbread, and shared it together. It wasn't glamorous, but it was powerful. Imagine hundreds of soldiers grinding grain under torchlight, the smell of bread drifting across the camp. That simple meal kept an empire marching. Grain wasn't just food, it was a strategy. Light to carry, easy to store, and cooked anywhere with fire and water. Rome designed entire supply chains around it, farmers, storage hubs, and transport routes. When grain supplies failed, legions weakened. Cities starved, rebellion spread. Some historians even say Rome didn't march on swords. Rome marched on bread. Picture this, a Roman legion of 5,000 men moving across the countryside. Each soldier carried up to 40 kilograms of gear, weapons, armor, tools, even stakes for building camps. They walked nearly 30 kilometers a day, and at the end of the march, no rest. Instead, they built a fortified camp from scratch. The question is, how could human beings endure this day after day, year after year? The answer wasn't glory or speeches, it was calories. The simple fuel that allowed Rome to function came not from feasts, but from sacks of dried grain. Every soldier carried a supply of wheat or barley. Alongside it, a small hand mill to grind it, a pot to cook it, and sometimes small extras, a piece of cheese, dried bacon, or beans. At night, after hours of marching and digging, the camp came alive with a sound you wouldn't expect. The grinding of stone on stone, as thousands of men turned grain into flour. That flour became poles, a thick porridge, or flatbreads cooked over campfires. Sometimes they added vinegar and water to make posca, a sour drink that kept them hydrated. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a feast. But it was dependable. Why grain? Why not rely on meat, fish, or wine? Grain had everything Rome needed. Lightweight, a sack of grain lasted weeks. Durable, it didn't spoil easily. Energy-packed, carbohydrates gave long-lasting endurance, not short bursts. Modern nutrition science agrees. Carbs are essential for stamina. Long-distance runners today carb load before races. Roman soldiers were doing the same thing 2,000 years ago. In many ways, grain wasn't just food. It was ancient performance fuel, but carrying food wasn't enough. Rome built an entire empire of supply. Farmers in the provinces grew vast amounts of wheat. Massive granaries stored it. Fleets of ships carried it across the Mediterranean, especially from Egypt, the empire's breadbasket. One Roman writer said, "Egypt is the gift of the Nile." For Rome, Egypt was the gift of survival. From the river valleys of North Africa to the ports of Ostia, Rome's lifeline was grain. Without it, the city and the army would collapse. Grain wasn't just about feeding soldiers, it fed politics too. In Rome, hundreds of thousands of citizens received the grain dole, free monthly distributions of wheat. This wasn't generosity. It was control. If people had bread, they stayed calm. If they didn't, riots erupted. More than once, emperors were judged not by victories, but by whether the city had enough bread. Bread wasn't just food. It was the foundation of power. But what happened when grain supplies failed? Storms sank ships, enemy raids blocked routes. Crops failed in the provinces. The result? Hungry soldiers, angry citizens, and political chaos. Some historians argue that Rome's decline wasn't just about invasions, but about supply chains breaking down. An empire that marched on grain eventually stumbled when that grain stopped flowing. Other armies of the ancient world relied on herds of animals, foraging, or hunting. That meant slower march, unpredictable food, and limited campaigns. Rome was different. Its supply lines were organized, efficient, and almost industrial in scale. This allowed legions to strike far, move fast, and stay strong. Logistics, not just weapons, gave Rome its edge. Let's step into the sandals of a Roman soldier for one day. Dawn. You wake, pack your gear, and begin the march. The sun burns, your shoulders ache from armor, dust fills your lungs. After hours of marching, you reach camp. You dig trenches, build walls, carry logs. Finally, by torchlight, you grind grain, cook porridge, and eat with your comrades. Then you take guard duty, staring into the night, waiting for dawn to do it all again. Without food, this life would be impossible. With it, Rome marched across the known world. We remember Rome for emperors, gladiators, and marble monuments. But behind the glory stood something humble: sacks of grain, grinding stones, and bowls of porridge. Rome's armies didn't march only on steel, they marched on bread. So next time you look at the ruins of Rome, remember, empires don't just rise on power and strategy. Sometimes the fate of the world rests on something as ordinary as a soldier's daily meal.